Welcome back. I'm your host at Navy Legends, and I want to begin this one with a geography lesson about 8 uninhabited islands in the East China Sea, totaling approximately 7 square kilometers, smaller than a mid-sized airport. The Senkaku Islands, administered by Japan, claimed by China as the Diaoyu Islands. 7 square kilometers of rock and contested sovereignty that sit at the intersection of 3 national identities, rich fishing grounds, and a geographic position at the southwestern Ryukyu chain, relevant to any nation thinking about first island chain access. The PRC's legal position: the islands are Chinese sovereign territory, and any U.S. Navy vessel nearby is in Chinese waters. The U.S. position: the islands are under Japanese administration. The U.S.-Japan Mutual Defense Treaty applies, and U.S. naval vessels have every right to operate in adjacent international waters. On October 11, 2027, that legal disagreement produced the most significant surface-to-surface naval engagement between U.S. and Chinese forces in the post-World War II era. The date is October 11, 2027. The time is 3:34 local. The East China Sea, approximately 64 nautical miles north-northeast of the Senkaku Islands and 310 nautical miles southwest of Okinawa. The USS Constellation FFG-62, the lead ship of the new Constellation-class guided missile frigate, commissioned into service in 2025, is conducting a routine maritime patrol in international waters, operating independently as the Surface Action Group's advanced screening element. The Constellation is not an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. She is a smaller, faster, and differently armed ship. A frigate, not a destroyer, designed for distributed maritime operations and blue water patrol with an emphasis on anti-submarine warfare, surface warfare, and self-defense, rather than the deep magazine air defense capability of the Burke class. Her AN/S PS-49A V-1 air search radar is in full configuration. Her VLS contains 32 cells, a smaller but capable mixed load of ESSM quad-packed rounds and SM-2 Block 3B missiles. Her primary anti-surface weapon is the Naval Strike Missile, the NSM, carried in an 8-round deck-mounted launcher on her stern. She carries one MH-60R Seahawk on her flight deck. Her crew numbers 200 officers and enlisted personnel. She is capable, well-crewed, and operating exactly where she has every legal right to operate. She is also operating within 70 nautical miles of a position where the plan has been maintaining 2 Type 055 Renhai-class guided missile cruisers on a 96-hour continuous patrol rotation since the Taiwan Strait tensions elevated 9 days prior. The Type 055 Renhai class is the PLA Navy's most capable surface combatant. At 12,000 tons, larger than an Arleigh Burke and comparable to a Ticonderoga-class cruiser. Her 112-cell VLS carries YJ-18 anti-ship cruise missiles, HHQ-9B long-range SAMs, and YJ-21 hypersonic anti-ship missiles. Her Type 346 BAESA radar is assessed as comparable to the U.S. Navy's Spy-6 in several parameters. A peer combatant in every meaningful sense. The Type 055, designated Nanchang, Hull 101 of the class, the lead ship, operating as the Eastern Patrol vessel in the plan's Senkaku security rotation, had been tracking the USS Constellation on her Type 346B radar for 4 hours and 11 minutes. The Nanchang's commanding officer had the Constellation's position, course, speed, and radar emission signature continuously updated. He also had orders, transmitted from South Sea Fleet Headquarters 11 hours prior, following a Central Military Commission decision that the Constellation's patrol warranted a graduated response to compel withdrawal. The orders described a coercive deterrent engagement. Fire first, fire precisely, and force a U.S. choice between escalating in waters China claims as sovereign or withdrawing and accepting the precedent. At 3:34:07, the Nanchang's fire control system generated a firing solution on the USS Constellation, at a range of 68.4 nautical miles. The Nanchang fired 8 YJ-18 anti-ship cruise missiles from her VLS in a ripple sequence over 11 seconds. The YJ-18 is a two-stage anti-ship missile, subsonic cruise at medium altitude for most of its range, then a terminal sprint to Mach 2.5 to 3.0, beginning at approximately 40 kilometers, simultaneously descending to a sea-skimming approach at 5 to 7 meters. A ship that detects a YJ-18 at the sprint transition has approximately 60 to 80 seconds before impact. The Constellation's AN/SPS-49AV. One radar detected the first YJ-18 at 033431, 24 seconds after the Nanchang fired, as the missiles climbed to their cruise altitude and became visible above the radar horizon. 8 contacts, all bearing 279 degrees, west-northwest, from the direction of the Nanchang's patrol position. No transponder. Accelerating. The watch team's classification came in under 4 seconds. Anti-ship cruise missile attack. 8 rounds. The Constellation's commanding officer had been on the bridge since the ship's ESSM system flagged Nanchang's fire control radar illumination at 033341. Plan Type 346B fire control mode. Unambiguous. 26 seconds between that ESSM alert and the first radar contact. He used them. Weapons free authorized. Maximum speed ordered. Contact report transmitted to 7th Fleet and USS Lake Erie, 190 nautical miles northeast. MH-60R Seahawk crew ordered to their aircraft. The Constellation's self-defense employment of her available weapons began at 3:34:43, 12 seconds after first contact detection. SM-2, Block 3B rounds left the VLS in a pre-computed sequence. 4 rounds assigned to the 4 leading YJ-18 contacts, 2 rounds each, in a staggered ripple that maintained engagement geometry coverage across the 8-contact picture. The SM-2's engagement against a subsonic cruise missile at 60 nautical miles was well within its capability. The challenge was the YJ-18's 2-phase profile. The SM-2 engagement would need to complete against the subsonic cruise phase before the missiles transition to their supersonic sprint, because the SM-2 Block 3B's engagement probability against a Mach 3 sea-skimming target in the terminal sprint phase was substantially lower than against the same missile in its subsonic cruise phase. The timeline was tight. At 60 nautical miles subsonic cruise speed, the YJ-18 was approximately 7 minutes from the Constellation's position. The SM-2's flight time to intercept at that range was approximately 80 seconds. First SM-2 intercepts were possible from 0336 onward, but the supersonic sprint transition would begin at approximately 033730 as the missiles reached 40 kilometers from the target. That left a window of approximately 90 seconds in which the SM-2 intercepts had to be achieved before the threat profile changed. 3 SM-2 intercepts succeeded in that window. 3 YJ-18 missiles were neutralized in their subsonic cruise phase between 033611 and 033719. The SM-2's radar homing guidance, acquiring the subsonic contacts at extended range with reliable lock. The intercepts producing confirmed detonations that scattered debris into the East China Sea. The 4th SM-2 round, assigned to the 4th contact, detonated in proximity at 3:37:28, 2 seconds before the transition window closed. The proximity detonation was insufficient, 6.1 meters outside optimal fragmentation range. The YJ-18 transitioned to supersonic sprint with minor aerodynamic damage to its left control surface. Its seeker intact, its warhead intact, its speed climbing through Mach 2.5. 5 YJ-18 missiles remaining. 4 now in supersonic sprint mode at Mach 2.7 to 3.1, sea skimming at 6 meters altitude. 1 damaged but functional in sprint transition. Range to Constellation, 38 nautical miles. Time to impact, Approximately 68 to 74 seconds. 68 seconds. The ESSM layer engaged at 033741. 8 ESSM rounds from the Constellation's VLS. All available ESSM capacity in the current load, against 5 supersonic sea-skimming contacts at ranges between 18 and 23 nautical miles. The ESSM's engagement probability against a Mach 3 sea skimmer varies significantly with engagement geometry. The YJ-18's sea-skimming profile at 6 meters altitude, combined with its high terminal speed, places it in the most demanding engagement sector for any semi-active or active radar homing interceptor. The target's altitude provides minimal clearance above the sea clutter return that can confuse the interceptor's terminal seeker, and its Mach 3 sprint speed compresses the interceptor's correction window to fractions of a second. 4 ESSM engagements succeeded. At 3:38:09, 2 contacts were neutralized simultaneously. The ESSM detonations at 8.1 and 9.3 nautical miles, producing confirmed warhead destruction. The contact's debris impacts on the sea surface visible on the Constellation's surface search radar as brief clutter bursts. A third contact was neutralized at 3:38:14, 7.1 nautical miles. A fourth at 3 hours 38 minutes and 21 seconds, 4.8 nautical miles. 4 ESSM rounds had missed. Their proximity fuse attempts at Mach 3 targets in the sea clutter return zone had produced detonations outside the lethal radius. 4 ESSM rounds expended on misses. 8 ESSM rounds total expended. 1 YJ-18 remaining. The damaged one, the contact that had taken the SM-2 proximity detonation and transitioned to sprint with aerodynamic damage. Its Mach 2.5 sprint speed was lower than the others. Its approach was slightly unstable. The damaged left control surface inducing a 1.3-degree roll oscillation that the missile's flight control system was continuously correcting. Range, 3.9 nautical miles. Time to impact, approximately 18 seconds. 18 seconds. The Constellation's Phalanx CIWS, one mount forward, the only CIWS aboard a Constellation-class frigate, acquired the contact at 3,400 meters range. The contact's oscillating roll made its radar return intermittent at the CIWS acquisition range. The 1.3-degree roll was enough to briefly vary the presented RCS between 0.12 and 0.6 square meters on successive radar sweeps. The CIWS tracking algorithm averaged the intermittent returns and maintained a fire control solution. The system fired a 1.2-second burst at 03:38:31 at 2,900 meters range. 91 rounds of 20 millimeters. The burst was tracked onto the target at 2,600 meters. 22 confirmed impacts on the YJ-18's nose and fuselage section. The missile's active radar seeker was destroyed. Its propulsion continued for 1.4 seconds before the fuselage structural damage propagated to the motor section. The missile began descending. The descending YJ-18, propulsion failed, seeker destroyed, aerodynamically unstable, impacted the East China Sea at 3:38:36, 430 meters off the Constellation's port bow. The 300-kilogram semi-armor-piercing warhead detonated on water contact. At 430 meters standoff, the detonation produced a pressure wave equivalent to approximately 420 kilograms of TNT that reached the Constellation's hull as a 1.7 G shock impulse. The 1.7 G impulse through a 7,400-ton hull was enough. In the Combat Information Center, 3 display screens lost power from shock-induced connector failures. The smaller hull of a frigate transmitting the shock load through its framing with less attenuation than the larger mass of a Burke-class destroyer. The ship's ESM system, the AN/SLQ-32 V7, mounted high on the mast, had its primary antenna array unseated from its mounting bracket by the impulse. the vibration resonance in the mast structure, amplifying the shock at the antenna's natural frequency. The ESSM system went offline. The Constellation was now without her primary electronic warfare and threat warning system. In the forward magazine, the automated ESSM reload handling system jammed, a reload mechanism that had already emptied its capacity against the engagement, had its guide rail tracking mechanism bent fractionally by the shock load, jamming in the partially advanced position. The VLS could still fire from the forward cells, but the reload path was obstructed. 7 sailors sustained injuries from the 1.7 G shock event. In the after-berthing compartment, 4 off-watch personnel were thrown from their bunks simultaneously. 1 sustained a fractured wrist from impact with the bunk frame. 1 sustained a sprained shoulder. 2 sustained contusions. In the engineering spaces, the watch engineer was thrown against the main switchboard panel, sustaining a deep laceration to his right forearm that required 12 sutures in the ship's medical bay. 2 additional sailors in the ship's damage control equipment locker were shaken from their positions, both sustaining blast concussion. The MH-60R Seahawk, launched at 03:35:18, 47 seconds after the weapons-free authorization, was now airborne and clear of the ship. Its crew had been directed to a standby orbit while the missile engagement resolved. At 3:38:47, 11 seconds after the YJ-18 water impact, the Constellation's commanding officer directed Raven 11 to prosecute the Nanchang. Not with weapons, not yet. With sensors. The MH-60R was ordered to close to identification range and confirm the Nanchang's position, course, and speed, to lock the targeting datum that the Constellation's NSM launchers would need for a retaliatory strike. NSM, the Naval Strike Missile, is a sea-skimming, terrain-following anti-ship weapon with a 125-kilogram warhead, a range of 185 kilometers, and an imaging infrared terminal seeker that can distinguish between ship classes and select specific aim points. It is the Constellation's primary offensive anti-surface weapon, and at 68 nautical miles from the Nanchang's last known position, within NSM range, the Constellation had a retaliatory option. At 3:39:22, the Constellation's commanding officer transmitted his contact report, engagement record, and retaliatory recommendation to 7th Fleet and to the commander, U.S. Forces Japan, on the priority circuit. The recommendation was unambiguous. The planned Nanchang had fired on a U.S. Navy vessel in international waters without warning, without prior incident, and without legal justification under any interpretation of international maritime law. An immediate response was warranted, proportionate, and legally defensible. 7th Fleet's authorization arrived at 03:47. Engage the Nanchang with NSM under right of self-defense. Minimum force necessary. No expansion to other plan assets unless they demonstrated hostile intent. At 3:48:11, the Constellation fired 6 NSM rounds, 4 in the first salvo, 2 in a second salvo, 12 seconds later, incorporating the MH-60R's refined position datum. The rounds dropped to sea-skimming altitude within 800 meters, orienting toward the Nanchang 68 nautical miles west-northwest. NSM flight time to target at 185 kilometers range. Approximately 21 minutes at cruise speed. Impact window, 4:09 to 4:10 local. During that 21-minute flight window, the Nanchang's Type 346B radar detected the incoming NSM contacts at 03:53:14, 31.2 nautical miles, 6 contacts, sea skimming, bearing 099. The Nanchang's HHQ-9 BSAM system and HHQ-10 RAM equivalent system engaged. 3 NSM rounds were neutralized in the outer engagement layer by HHQ-9B missiles. 1 round was neutralized by the HHQ-10 close-in system at 4.1 kilometers range. 2 NSM rounds survived. The first surviving NSM impacted the Nanchang's port side amidships at 4:09:44. the 125-kilogram warhead detonating against the hull plating above the waterline at frame 211. The semi-armor-piercing warhead penetrated the outer hull and detonated inside the ship's helicopter hangar bay. The hangar was empty. The Nanchang's helicopter had been secured below decks, but the blast destroyed the hangar structure, severed the gas turbine exhaust ducting for the port gas turbine plant, and started a fire in the hangar's fuel servicing station. The flooding rate through the hull breach was assessed at 1,200 liters per minute. 16 planned Navy personnel in the vicinity of the hangar and adjacent spaces sustained injuries, 7 seriously, requiring medical intervention, 9 with lesser blast and fragmentation injuries. The second NSM impacted the Nanchang's forward superstructure at 040951, 7 seconds after the first round, the 7-second separation having been absorbed by the HHQ-10 engagement of the round that was neutralized. The second warhead detonated against the forward mast structure, destroying the Type 346B radar's forward array panels and the associated cooling equipment. The Nanchang's radar capability was immediately reduced to her after array, approximately 60% of normal coverage. Her fire control capability against aerial threats was significantly degraded. The fire in the hangar was spreading. The Nanchang's commanding officer ordered the ship to withdraw to the northwest at maximum speed and transmitted an emergency message to South Sea Fleet headquarters declaring combat damage and requesting support. The message also transmitted the engagement record, a record that would, within hours, create a diplomatic crisis of the first order between Beijing and Washington. While the NSM engagement was in flight, the Constellation had detected the second component of the plan's operation. At 3:51:08, 17 minutes after the YJ-18 launch, the Constellation's surface search radar registered 19 contacts bearing 264 degrees at 28.4 nautical miles. Small, fast, accelerating to 31 knots. No AIS. RCS, consistent with CHFS autonomous surface vehicles, the same platform that had appeared in the Taiwan Strait engagement against USS Shiloh and in the South China Sea. Attack on USS Bunker Hill. The plan's operational concept for October 11th had incorporated the USV Swarm as a secondary exploitation layer, timed to arrive during the Constellation's post-shock recovery window. The Constellation was in that window. ESM offline. ESSM magazine expended. VLS reload mechanism jammed. The forward CIWS was operational. Her 57mm main gun, the Mark 110, was operational. Her NSM launchers were empty. 6 rounds fired, no reload available at sea. The MH-60R Seahawk was airborne with 4 Hellfire rounds remaining from its standard load. 19 USV contacts at 28 nautical miles. Closing at 31 knots. Time to effective weapon range, approximately 29 minutes. Raven 11 turned toward the swarm bearing at 035144 and began systematic engagement with Hellfire at the leading contacts. 4 Hellfire rounds, 4 direct neutralizations in the first 6 minutes. The helicopter crew working methodically through the contact picture, prioritizing vehicles that had separated from the main swarm body and were on the most direct approach bearing. 15 contacts remaining. The Constellation's Mark 110 57mm gun opened fire at 3:54:12 as the contacts reached 12 nautical miles. The Mark 110's maximum effective range against small surface targets. The 57mm fired at 220 rounds per minute against the swarm's leading contacts. In the next 14 minutes, the gun crew accounted for 8 additional contacts. Sustained, precise, methodical fire that progressively attrited the swarm as it closed range. 7 contacts remaining at 4 hours, 5 minutes, and 11 seconds. Range, 4.2 nautical miles. The forward phalanx engaged as the contacts entered its 4,000-meter surface engagement envelope. 3 additional contacts neutralized by CIWS between 04:05:30 and 040647. 4 contacts at 1.9 nautical miles. The Mk110 continued engaging alongside the CIWS. 2 weapons, 4 targets. At 4:07:02, the last 4 contacts were simultaneously engaged by the Mk110 and the CIWS. 2 were neutralized by phalanx bursts at 1,400 and 1,200 meters. 1 was struck by a 57mm round at 1,600 meters. The vehicle's propulsion destroyed, the contact decelerating and drifting without guidance. The 4th contact reached 840 meters from the Constellation's hull before the phalanx completed its slew from the previous engagement bearing and fired. The contact was struck at 760 meters. Its 180-kilogram shaped charge warhead detonated under the CIWS fragmentation impact at 760 meters from the hull. The detonation at 760 meters produced a pressure wave that reached the Constellation as a 0.4 G impulse, sufficient to rattle loose fittings and briefly interrupt the ship's secondary lighting circuit, but structurally inconsequential. No additional casualties. No structural damage. All 19 USV contacts neutralized or disabled. The engagement was over. The USS Lake Erie, closing at maximum speed since receiving the contact report at 0334, arrived at 0644 to provide Aegis BMD coverage. The engagement had been over for more than 2 hours. Diplomatically, October 11th produced consequences that outpaced the physical damage. The U.S. formally protested, characterizing the Nanchang's launch as an act of aggression. Japan invoked the mutual consultation mechanism of the U.S.-Japan Mutual Defense Treaty. China's foreign ministry called the Constellation's patrol a deliberate provocation in sovereign waters, and the Nanchang's response a lawful exercise of self-defense, without acknowledging the 2 NSM impacts or the 16 PLAN personnel injured. The Constellation's commanding officer was awarded the Navy Cross for managing simultaneous missile and USV threats while sustaining shock damage and systems degradation. The Nanchang returned to Qingdao on October 14th. Hangar reconstruction. Type 346B forward array replacement. Return to operational status December 2nd. 52 days out of service. Here at Navy Legends, October 11th, 2027. Changes the reference frame for every surface action discussion in the Pacific. A direct exchange of weapons fire between a U.S. Navy frigate and a PLAN cruiser in international waters, over the right to be there. Both ships survived. The Constellation's damage, sensors and reload path, manageable at sea. The Nanchang's damage, structural hangar and primary radar, 52 days in port. The engagement validated the U.S. Navy's distributed maritime operations concept. A properly crewed frigate can manage a peer adversary's missile attack, sustain shock damage, and still deliver retaliatory precision fire. The Constellation expended her ESSM magazine, activated her sole CIWS, survived a detonation at 430 meters, lost her ESM and reload path, and still got 6 NSM rounds in the air. The arithmetic: 2 NSM hits on Nanchang, 0 YJ 18 hits on Constellation, at the cost of 1 ESSM magazine and 1 ESM antenna. Whether the next exchange produces that same arithmetic depends on crew quality, tactical discipline, and 60 seconds of ESM warning before the opposing ship fires. 60 seconds. The margin by which the Constellation's commanding officer bought his authorization to respond before the first YJ-18 appeared on radar. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. I'll see you in the next one.